So the power of vulnerability. Anybody seen Brene Brown's Power of Vulnerability TED Talk? Just a couple of you. Okay, pretty amazing, right? I got to see her speak last week. Why? It was really, really inspiring. So if you haven't seen her TED Talk, it's a 20-minute TED Talk, write this down. It's called Power of Vulnerability. Brene Brown, it's spelled B-R-E-N-E, Brown, Brene Brown. She's a shame researcher. And her work is, so how many of you have been taught that vulnerability is a weakness? Yeah, a lot of us. Yeah, don't let yourself be so vulnerable. That kind of thing. Vulnerability is your greatest strength. Because vulnerability is about showing up as your true self, as your whole self. And that takes courage. And actually courage, the Latin root of cur, means wholehearted. Wholehearted. So courage is showing up with your whole heart, allowing yourself to be seen in your truth of who you really are. And that's about playing big as well.
You should have pain tolerance.
Yes, yes. So I use this slide because being vulnerable means thick skin, big heart. Thick skin, big heart. Well, I think it does because thick skin meaning people are going to ridicule you. People are going to not like what you have to say. It's going to be fearful for some people when you really show up, right? And so you might get criticism. But that's what I mean by thick skin. Now, Brene Brown talks about it like armoring up. We armor up to go to work, right? And her point is when you go to work every day and you armor up, you can't come home at night and take the armor off. There's no fluidity there. It's not like you go to work like this, right? And then you come home and you're like, oh, hi, I'm here, I'm all loving, right? You can't transition like that daily, right? It's about being seen for who you truly are. And here's where it's really important in companies. This is huge. And I saw this a lot when I was at Xerox, and I also really saw it at Cisco because Cisco is such a, well, they value the intellect to such a degree, right? It's all about intellectual showcasing because there's so many brilliant people there. And they think everything is from the thinking left brain as opposed to the creativity. Vulnerability means when you come to the workplace, you have the ability to throw out ideas and be creative, and you're not going to be afraid of, you have to make a safe place of vulnerability, right? It's where you can just throw things out. You don't have to fear being ridiculed or put down or somebody saying something about you. Because without being vulnerable, there is no creativity, and creativity is what leads to innovation. And we've even come to a really masculine place, like people that work on their PhDs, the thesis, they now do their thesis. I mean, a thesis used to be, I'm going to do the work and it's either going to prove it or not prove it. Now the theses actually have to prove what they originally said it was, right? They can't be wrong. So there are actually companies out there now that say, if you're not coming up with enough ideas and failing enough, then we don't want you. Because if you're not failing at least 6 out of 10 times, that means you are not putting yourself out there and being creative enough. And we're more concerned with not failing, which means because we don't want to be vulnerable. And then we limit the creativity, which leads to innovation. And that's huge.